And so we're going to talk about this hot applied bridge deck membrane project that Crafco did for us. So I'm going to talk about the bridge and the logistics of it and where it's located, why we're doing the project, and then Pat's going to take over and talk about the product that he represents. So this bridge is a weathering steel welded plate girder continuous structure with 6 girders. It's KDOT bridge number 280. It carries 2 lanes of US 75 northbound traffic over 46th Street, which turns into a roundabout below the structure. It was built in 2002. It's located just north of Topeka, Kansas, and the ADT is 8,031 per day, of which 9% is truck traffic. So here's the picture of it. The northbound is the one on the bottom, of course, and southbound, the other one. So the northbound, we use the Crafco overlay, and on the southbound, we use a conventional Petromat. The twin bridge is the one that had the conventional Petromat, carries southbound traffic over 46th Street. Both the bridges have 3 spans, one at 140, one at 147, one at 140. Total length 430. So 43-foot wide bridge deck. Some issues with settlement and these MSE walls, which I'm going to use a pointer here. The MSE walls on either end of this structure, we've had some settlement issues, and because of the, well, that's part of part of another story, but anyway, it had to deal with the rideability. Getting a little off target here, but so you can see these bridges are very similar, which makes them good candidates for this type of an in-house comparison for the different deck treatments. So we chose them because they had rideability issues, and the bridges were relatively new. So we decided to do a test overlay on these side-by-side bridges. So, and the comparison pitted Crafco's product against a conventional Petromat. And the advantage of the Crafco product is that after the wearing surface deteriorates over time, from normal wear, you can mill off the 2 inches or so and put back down the asphalt wearing surface without getting into the waterproof membrane system. I just showing them again. The conventional waterproof membrane would have to be removed if we use a conventional Petromat. The waterproof membrane would have to be removed with the milling off of the wearing surface. So we chose these bridges because they were very similar to each other, and the initial cost is higher than the conventional asphalt Petromat overlay with waterproof membrane, but the overall life cycle cost with the Crafco would be lower. So we decided to give it a shot. And the next couple slides will show that the current conditions of these bridges are quite similar. So on the left, you have the conventional Petromat, and on the right, you got the Crafco deck systems. I took these pictures last week, and you can see there's about 1% deterioration. It's mainly some minor T-cracks with efflorescence, T-cracks, transverse cracks with efflorescence in the bottom of the deck. And that's probably from back when the original deck was put down and had some rideability issues and some cracking. Here's the current typical top of deck deterioration for each bridge. There is some cracking in the asphalt overlays. On the left is the conventional Petromat, the right, the Crafco. Very similar. I think it was like maybe from the inspection report, one of the bridges had 2% deterioration on the top, one had 3% deterioration, but it's just basically from this longitudinal and transverse cracking in the top of deck, which is fine, I mean, for what we're doing. There's those numbers. So basically at this point in time, both overlays are performing equally, and I guess I just wanted to mention that this whole project is, this project kind of goes into the theme of our this meeting here. The theme being enhancing bridge preservation practices through innovation and collaboration, because this project happened because, I don't know, 2014, 2015, a KDOT representative talked to Pat, or a Crafco representative that was at one of these meetings, these annual face-to-face meetings, and they got together and said, hey, let's try this. And so if it wasn't for that, you know, one of these meetings in the past, this may not have happened. So with that, that's where we stand now, is where, you know, what we just saw. And now I'm going to turn it over to Pat, and he'll talk about the ins and outs of Crafco's product here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Good. Jim kind of stole some of my thunder, but that's okay. I guess we'll repeat ourselves. I am Pat Stivers. I'm with Crafco. I'm the regional sales manager. I cover 7 states. I always kind of forget what states I cover, but it's Oklahoma, Kansas, half of Missouri, half of Illinois, half of Indiana, all of Kentucky, and Tennessee. And I've been with Crafco for 22 years. Crafco is based out of Chandler, Arizona. Most of you might know us as kind of the world's largest supplier and manufacturer of crack sealants and the equipment to apply them. But as you can see from this, we do some other things too. Kind of a fun fact, I am the mayor of Mays, Kansas. In my part-time job, I guess that's what I do. So population 6,000, I'm kind of proud of that. So that means, yes, I'm an elected official and I'm a politician. So it's all about tax money for me. So keep that in mind. So a little history, like Jim had talked about. This actually started about 8 years ago. Lisa Zentner, who is in charge of this and is normally here but couldn't be here this week, she met with it was Paul with the state of Kansas in Orlando, Florida, she told me. This just didn't happen right away. It took a little time. You were saying they met 8 years ago, and we didn't put this stuff down until 2017? Okay. So it didn't happen right away. In fact, Lisa talked to Paul, and they went along their ways, and a few years later in 2017, I started getting phone calls. I didn't know anything about this project. That's how it happened. And all of a sudden, all these contractors are calling wanting to know, can we get prices? So Lisa knew all about it, and she helped me out, and we priced everybody. Unfortunately, 2 contractors that are local in Topeka that everybody knows is Ham Company and Bettis Asphalt. They were the low bidder. And fortunate for us, they were local, and Crafco knew them very well also. So time is provided as to when the project's going to start. Bettis Asphalt did a majority of the work. They ordered the product. We shipped it to them. They received the product. Good thing about Bettis is they're only like 5 minutes away, 5 miles away or less from this bridge. So everything was really convenient for everything. So we shipped it. The date was set, and Lisa Zentner, who started this whole thing, flew in from Arizona into Kansas City. She picked up Dave Keener, another sales representative from Crafco in Kansas City, and then I drove up from Wichita. And the day before this thing started, we did a pre-con meeting with Bettis, and we kind of went over and educated the crew on how to do this and what was to be expected. Before that time, we had sent Bettis a list of the equipment that was going to be required, and so they had it all ready to go. Ham had come and milled the deck out and got it ready, and the deck was in great shape, by the way. And so traffic control was all set. All we had to do was show up that morning and go to work. So that's kind of how it happened. Here's a picture real quick, Ultra Seal waterproofing system. This is the actual deck in Topeka. We did this about this time of year, as I recall. It was in October, September or October. And that's kind of some of the guys that are in the crew. Just a quick picture. I won't get into the particulars of this, but this is basically what is required from Crafco in order to do this. You have the Ultra Seal protection board, the reinforcing fabric, the membrane, which is the Ultra Seal 3750 bridge deck membrane, which is very important in this process, a primer, and then I already said the fabric. So, as Jim said, the big selling point on this, I think that KDOT really liked about it was the fact that when that overlay starts wearing off and they want to redo the bridge to make rideability better, they can mill that down and this product is going to stay and you're not going to have to start the process all over again. With the other stuff, you're going to have to basically start from scratch. So as I said, I'm an elected official. Better bang for the buck, better for the taxpayer is the selling point of this. So there's some little blurbs on there about the DOTs. Again, we're looking for a 100-year bridge life, and this, in our opinion, helps you obtain that. So for contractors, it's great because it gives them some good revenue. And again, for the taxpayers is my big thing as a mayor. So this is basically the system as it's put down. I'm going to switch to the next slide because it kind of individually goes over everything. So you start with your concrete deck. It's blown. You're going to use a handheld blower to make it nice and clean. Liberal with the membrane. The reinforcing fabric goes over that. Another coat of membrane. Those are 4x8 sheets, by the way. The other guys, I believe, have it in 75-foot rolls, if I'm not mistaken. And then we want a minimum of a 2-inch overlay. The thicker, the better for us. 3 would be better. I was talking to Bettis after we got done. We put these boards down. They're 4x8. And go to the next slide. But Bettis said that the week after they did the other one, if anybody's ever been to Kansas, it's kind of windy. And they had a heck of a time getting that to lay down. These boards, they felt it was a lot better for them. These are just some photos that show us putting it down. I'm going to play a couple of videos here that kind of really show things. And these are problems. I'm sure everybody has this in Kansas. We have extreme weather. One day it's 70 and the next day it's 20. And I'm sure everybody's experiencing those things. Traffic movement, this was kind of interesting. It was during harvest. And one of the issues that we ran into is the grain trucks would go by us on the bridge and they would lose some of their grain all the time. So it was constant. We were constantly picking corn out of the deal, which is kind of funny. I mean, you don't think about these things, but it happens. So the other thing that, we did this before COVID, but now we're all running into labor shortages. And the neat thing about this is you don't need a very large crew to do this. So these are things to consider. So this is step one, basically. As I said, Ham came in and did a nice job milling the deck off previously. They set up the traffic control. And so the first step is basically just to apply the primer. You just squirt it on there and you're just going to use a little roller. Very simple. Not very many people, as you can see, trucks going by. And this is step two. They've already put the reinforcing fabric done, so we went straight to the protection board on this. This is the membrane that you're putting on here. You want this very liberally applied, at least an 1/8 inch thick. Very simple. And you can see the boards that are being put on behind it. Simple process. And then this is the protection board. Very simple. As you see, they're 4x8 boards. You want to put them in a brick-like fashion. You want to stagger them. And you can see they're just putting the membrane binder right in front of it. And off we go. We're going down the road. This project took 2 full days. Started in the morning when it was dark 30, and we quit at night when it was dark 30. The neat thing about this is that it actually won an award between Ham and Bettis and the state of Kansas, and Crafco likes to feel like we were part of this too. The Kansas Contractors Association provided them with an award for partnering because everybody worked really well on this project. It couldn't have gone any better. The crew at Bettis had a terrific attitude. In fact, on the second day, they kind of told us at Crafco to just sit on the side rail and watch them go to work. So that was nice. Didn't have to work so hard. We did a case study on this, Crafco did. This is going to be in Road and Bridges magazine, if it hasn't been already. And these are just some statements that Lisa Zentner and I were interviewed for that. And, you know, Crafco's all about pavement preservation, and we're all about partnering up with people. Some of the things that we said. That's my quote. So we love to team up with the state of Kansas at all times. And I'm just going to blip through this because it really doesn't have anything. These are our mission, vision, values, and things like that. And that's so I got those two videos I'd like to play. What I've got now is a couple of time-lapse videos I'd like to play. This is a bridge deck that was done in Oregon, and Lisa used her phone to do time-lapse. It goes fairly fast, but I thought you might like to see it. So again, this was done in Oregon, not in Kansas. It just shows what you're using. Crack sealing melters, you know, the Crafco ones work good. We prefer the bigger ones for this because you go through a lot of this membrane pretty fast. And so when we did the Topeka project, we had 2 of them out there working. In this case, they've only got 1. Again, this was a 2-day project also in Oregon. The neat thing about this is you can do 1 lane at a time.
Paul Plarski, MnDOT. What are you guys doing at bridge joints or expansion joints to armor it?
We have systems for bridge joints as far as the end of the bridge, or what are you talking about? Bridge joints in what respect?
Expansion joints, we usually get the asphalt to round off.
Yeah, we've got a matrix product that we use. We've used a lot of it in Indiana as an example. I was just talking to the Indiana person before the break. It's called matrix. It's used at the end of the bridges. We're using that. You know, sealant-wise, we have a variety of different items for cracks and things like that, which I think is going to be talked about this afternoon a little bit, I think.
For this bridge, we just had plug joints at the end of the bridge, and
Yeah.
and that's typically what we use for an asphalt overlay.
And our matrix product is typically used for plug joints. It's a mastic with a larger aggregate rock in it, and so you're just going. It's normally 24 inches wide, and then about 2 to 3 inches deep. That's what we're using for those.
Do you have a projected life for this membrane system with 2 layers of membrane?
We were hoping it lasts an awful long time. I don't know what the projected life would be. I don't know the answer to that question right now. We're excited when they go to do this again. We want to be there when they're going to mill it out. This has been going on for quite a while, so we're looking forward to when that gets redone again, because that's what we want to see happen. So, but I don't know how many times. It's multiple times is what I've been told, that you can redo this. So it should last for quite a while.
And right now, we're like 6 years into it, and the rideability is still fine. It's got the cracking you've seen in the wearing surface, but I mean, I don't know, 3 more years out of it before we're probably even starting to worry.
We did not isolate the piles on this, so we're pushing the MSE wall with the piles, so we're having approach issues. And that's really why we did what we did. We don't generally use asphalt unless we're just trying to extend time. But on this particular case, we're trying to figure out what to do without tearing out the fill on the MSE wall and redoing that. So it's really an approach issue, that we were impacting the bridge way too hard. We were having serious issues with impact, and that's why we went and tried both products.
Jim, could you tell us what a Petromat is? Is that what you said for the other bridge? Because the comparison's pretty close. What is that?
It's just with the, well, Don's gonna.
It's a waterproof membrane with the 2-inch asphalt. And like I said, we have not resolved the settlement issues at the approach. Until we do that, we're going to have problems. But anyway, the rideability right now is still fairly good. And we'll probably have to do something when the approach is settled. But yeah, it's just a 2-inch with a thin waterproof membrane.
I believe it's a 75-foot roll or something like that, and cold applied, I believe.
I will say Michigan as a policy does not use asphalt overlays unless we're just trying to extend rideability because of typical poor performance from these membranes. But the Crafco one we have tried and is actually been the only one I've seen that has actually held up. So good place to go and talk after the presentations today. Thank you very much.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.